the city for a brief period of time was full of people who felt like they were a part of one big family. And then very quickly thereafter, because it's human nature, not only do people forget what happened, but life goes back to normal. I can still remember, which was about 6 weeks after 9/11, the first time I saw somebody giving somebody else the finger in traffic. And on a larger scale from that, it becomes a very short period of time after that where all the politicians came in, even from out of town here, and wanted to bask in the attention that was being paid to the firefighters. And now we're 10 years later, and the firefighters are getting some funding in terms of their health recovery, only because Jon Stewart, a comedian, mocked Washington ultimately on his Daily Show. And again, the spirit of the city and the country that went into the immediate aftermath is pretty astonishing. That's always a good thing for me anyways, to remember about human nature and the nature of Americans in general to a tragic situation like that. So that's what I carry away from it the most. You know, in the time of the most dire need, the city and a lot of people in this country really came together to recover from it, not just physically, but emotionally as well. To me, the thing that, you know, in any tragedy like that, there are moments that come out of it in terms of the arts that sometimes have a great effect. And the one that I saw that really had the most specific effect, and to me is still the most amazing piece of work that came out of that, is that Bruce Springsteen wrote a song called The Rising. That's the one piece of art that came out of it that really, in 4 minutes, can sum it up, you know. You know, he's done a lot of amazing things in his career. To me, that's probably the most amazing thing. Well, 9/11, in terms of rescuing me, was the main interest that drew Peter Tolan and I to the idea of writing about it, because we wanted to write about brave men and their overcoming grief over a long period of time. So it was watching those guys reacting to what was going on, and what had happened and what was happening through the course of that fall as they recovered from it, that sort of sparked the idea. My cousin was a firefighter. A lot of guys I grew up with became firefighters in my hometown of Worcester, Massachusetts. But also, the guy who ended up being the technical advisor on Rescue Me, Terry Quinn, who's a dear old friend of mine who's been a firefighter here in Manhattan for the last, oh my God, quarter of a century, as long as since we were in our 20s. So I just thought that was, not only was it an interesting story, but obviously we had access to it through Terry and through a bunch of other guys that I knew. And I think maybe that's why it drew an audience, because the audience was interested in watching the fictional story of those guys recovering from that event. I don't know what my role is. I don't know if I have any role in it. I'm just, as a writer and an actor, somebody who saw interesting territory and a long-form story to tell.